Hey guys, into the end here. Let's do another draft video. I am not yet in Masters in Draft, so I think I need at least two more drafts, and I have to win quite a bit. I think should be somewhere between 6-3 in both drafts, or maybe a 7x and then whatever in the next draft to get into Masters this month. Stirring Sands, I think this card has the potential to be pretty busted, but the quality of this is super highly conditional. The quality of this card is heavily dependent on so many conditions, right? One, you have to have preferably some explorers in play, and two, you have to have a bunch of sentinels in your void, and three, preferably those sentinels are good. There's just this card is asking for a lot in a draft format, so I think it's not that amazing. I think it's reliably just going to be a grasping in the to darkness for one single sentinel. I think is what's most likely going to happen, and I don't think that's good enough. This card has high risk, high reward. I like this card actually. Basically building Tron, like put one unit in play, give it Aegis, and then give it a bunch of weapons and make them flying, and then you attack your opponent until they die is a pretty legitimate strategy in this format because of the severe lack of good removal spells. The fact that only green has access to a good common removal is pretty absurd. I think one of the most frustrating things that I hear a lot of people complain about in the current drafting format is that you don't feel like it's very interactive in the sense that your opponent does something, you can't interact with it because you don't have the removal that you need to kill it with. I think that is something that many people are complaining about with the current format. And for the person drafting this deck, it's also kind of frustrating because you are kind of going all in, and if your opponent does happen to have a single removal spell, you do lose the game. So it's frustrating both way. That's for me, for the player who's doing it, it's like, well, if they have it, I'm screwed. And for the person who doesn't have, who's defending it, it's like, well, if I have it, I'm fine, but if I don't have it, I'm screwed. It's so coin flippy that I think this is one of the biggest complaints that I hear people talk about on the forums. This is a perfectly fine card. It's very synergistic with a lot of other Valkyries and also basically any kind of weapon. With this, you can reliably use a weapon 2 or 3 times if you have a decent board position. So it's actually a very good card if you have the right synergies with it. And even without the weapon, a 1/4 flying blocker is really good. You can take care of you can block a lot of flying units in this format. Not a lot of flying units get to 4 attack. And then it's also a very good body for carrying a weapon so that you can fly over for the win. So this card does a lot. It doesn't seem like it, but it does a lot. That's not a card. Everything else here is mediocre. Trailmaker is fine if you are... I mean, time decks typically do want to get ramped up because you have a lot of very expensive cards. A lot of the Sentinels are very expensive in Dinosaurs, and it's also fantastic for color fixing. But personally, I found that the go big strategy with time in this format has been at its worst. The reason for that is because there are 3 packs now out of 4 packs where you can have access to common deadly units in time. You have the Nocturnal Creeper, which is a 2/1 deadly, and you have Sand Viper, which is a deadly unit in Omens. That's 3 packs for you to pick up a lot of deadly units. So having a gigantic Sentinel isn't good enough anymore. I mean, assuming your opponent plays time. So, in fact, I'm someone who really likes to draft time because of the abundancy of the deadly units that clogs up the ground so your opponent can't attack you with giant units, and then you just fly in the air for the win. It's one of my favorite strategies. Into the Furnace is fine, but 2 damage. The fact that it's not in the fast spell is kind of weak, and basically 2 damage for 2 power is very fair. There's nothing unfair about this card. Not the best removal spell. I like both the Valkyries for the reason that they fly, and between the 2 of them, I think the main Watchwing is a little bit better just because it's got 2 attack, whereas this only has 1. But this is more expensive. So for me, the pick is going to be one of these 2 green cards, either the Silverwing Smith or the much more high risk, high reward Valkyrie Cadet. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick the Silverwing Smith here. This card, the only thing this card does is it entices you to draw weapons, both relic weapons and regular weapons, both of which are cards that are fine, right? The regular weapons because you put it onto him and he attacks, just like it is with the cadet. But the relic weapons is something I would want to draft anyway, so it's not a bad thing. Whereas the problem is this card, if I don't draw good weapons, it's useless. Whereas this card, if I don't draw good weapons or draft good weapons, is still good. So I think this card is more consistent than this card. Of course, it has a lower upside, but I think consistency and basically when you draft a creature, you have to pay very close attention to its body size. You cannot play a bunch of really small units in your deck. So we're going to take this Silverwing Smith over everything else in this pack. Green is overdrafted, by the way. Everybody drafts green. If someone opens an entrapment, they're going to take it and they're going to force green. Or even if they're not in green, they're still going to take the entrapment because they will splash it. So drafting green is a big danger. So we are definitely not locked into green. So if we see that green is being cut heavily, we'll just move out of it. Definitely not going to play Combustion Cell. Wisplight, I think it's too power hungry for this card to be great. I couldn't help but feel that there might be some kind of combo with this card, but I don't know what it is yet. Jolton Punter is really good. It's one of the backbones if you want to draft a Yetis deck. So I think this card is quite strong. Even without any Yetis in play, a 5 power 2/6 blocks most units. And I think that's already pretty strong on its own. This requires a lot of synergy. I don't love it. I like the Time Sworn Sentinel quite a bit. It's a great blocker. Draws you a card. 3 power 3/3, even if it's vanilla, is playable. Not great. Surgeon is only good if you can bond it. The thing of all these cards here, I'm going to go ahead and take the Jolton Punter, is the most powerful on its own. It's perfectly playable without any synergies, and the activated ability is very relevant if you have an aggressive Yetis deck. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Over, I think the only other consideration would pretty much be the Copperhorn Marshal here or the Time Sworn Sentinel. But the Sentinels you can pick very late. They usually come quite late. So I think we'll be between these two. I'm going to go ahead and take the Jolton Punter here. This card's playable, but dinosaur decks are kind of hit and miss. Well, I mean, all of the tribal decks are kind of hit and miss. You have to force the tribe early, aggressively, and sometimes they still don't work out. It's just a high-risk game. But this is a third pick entrapment. This is, if you ever need a sign that green is open, this is it. I don't think there's any green uncommon you would ever pick over entrapment. I could be wrong, but I can't think of any at the moment. But there could be an amazing green legendary that someone took over this. But this is the third pick. If the first person picked an amazing green rare / legendary in green, then the second person would have picked entrapment. So the fact that it's open on the third pick tells me green is open. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And even if green is not open, I'm still going to grab it for a splash. Okay, very easy pick here. Because we're already in green, the Spirit Blade Stalker is a fantastic card. 4 power 2/4 blocks great, and the ability is excellent, especially on flying evasive threats. I think the most powerful cards in this pack is the Stalker. I've liked the Patrol a lot. A vanilla 3/1 flyer is enough to win a lot of games, in my opinion, if you draft the right deck where you can actually clog up the ground. But this card is really strong. So if the green card isn't here, I probably just take the Repulsive Gorger. This card sometimes wins games on its own. Because in this format, most games develop into board styles. Having this effect happen to, say, 5 of your opponent's units, that's 10 so 2 per unit. That's 10 stats that you got rid of, right? And 10 stats is a lot of stats to take off your opponent's board. Not to mention a lot of the flying units will die to this. And the dinosaurs are fine, but you do have to kind of go all in on the dinosaur strategy. And, I'm personally not a big fan because some of the best dinosaur interactions, you need the uncommons. The common interactions aren't nearly as great. So, yeah, easy Spirit Blade Stalker pick here. And once again, a super easy pick I'm definitely gonna pick the Tandem Watchwing. It's a flying evasive threat. I'm going to end up with a lot of Valkyries in this color, so it's gonna be a 3/2 flying threat. Um, this is fine, but definitely not something I would take over a 3-drop because this is a 6-power spell. It's too expensive. Next to the Watchwing, I think the Scrap Hound is surprisingly good, but you do need to focus on picking Grenadines, and a lot of the other Grenadines are bad. So you do need to get lucky and get the good ones for this to be good. But otherwise, a 5/5 is very strong. This is fine. A perfectly playable card, not a super high pick. The 2 flyers are, I think, my top choices. This takes too much work, by the way, it's a trap. Okay, green continues to be open. Yeah, so this is the kind of card you want if you want to build a dinosaur deck. And you need like a lot of these. And there's also another 2-power one in blue that gets +1/+0 when you play a dinosaur, and it's a dinosaur itself. You need those kind of cards for your dinosaur to be deck to be amazing. I think I'm actually going to take the Emerald Spear over the Marshall. The Marshall was really replaceable. The Spear in our deck is going to basically be a 6-power, 3/6, well, potentially, a 3/6 weapon that comes with a 2/2 soldier. So it protects itself. It's going to allow me to kill probably a couple of units. So this is very, very relevant. Quite strong, actually. I think 1 copy in the deck is fine. Black seems open, and blue does not. Black seems a lot more open than blue because this card... Well, we've seen basically 0 Yetis, so I think that the entire tribe is being cut. So the Jolton Punter is most likely not going to be good. Even if we play blue, it's going to be... Chances are it's going to be on its own without a lot of Yetis to go with it. But Shadow seems open because the Patrols are... They're not amazing cards, but they're good. There's no reason why it's that late of a pick. And I think this Tower Shield is not that good, so I'm not going to pick it. The deal 3 damage to an enemy flying unit is very relevant when you're trying to get in for the in the air, but the other abilities is super irrelevant for my deck. My curve is getting kind of heavy here in the 4, but I'm still going to take the Patrol. Okay, this is perfectly playable. It's telling me that black is open, and green seems... Well, this is not a sign that green is open, but at least there's a green card there, right? Blue? Now there's tons of blue cards. This card is really strong. There's so many board stalls in this game that it's very likely that you'll get to 8 power, and then 2 damage per turn. You just mow down your opponent's units. It's actually pretty good. Possibly a splash-worthy card. Huh, all the dinosaurs in the world. Blue seems super open. See, this is... I might have been able to make a pretty good dinosaur deck, because there were a lot of the uncommon dinosaurs that are pretty good that got passed to me. But no Yetis, though. So someone's drafting Yetis. So someone is in blue, but they're not in dinosaurs. Moment of Creation. I don't think this card is good in draft. It's too hard to make it work. So if I'm in a game plan of making a Tron, this is good. You put it onto a unit on turn 4. It does, it's like a 3/6 or a 4/3. No, a 5/4. That ends games very quickly. The Valkyrie Militant is got some pretty crazy synergies with the Silverwings Weaponsmith here. With weapons, that's a really cool interaction that I like. The sword here is not good because I don't have any of the black Entomb units that is great for sacrificing. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick up this Jack's knife and wait a minute. I completely missed the Streetwise Informant. I don't know how I just skipped through it every time and just didn't see it. This card does a lot. In fact, this also combos very well with the Silver Wingsmith. I think the Streetwise Informant is more universally useful and powerful than a Jack's knife. This is a bit of an all-in early game strategy, but this card is just very good at any stage of the game. I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Yeah, both cards forces me to be in shadow, so in terms of color, I'm indifferent between the cards. I'm not going to play the Town Watchman. Tranquil Scholar has the potential to be very good. I think the Tranquil Scholar here is actually my favorite card. sometimes you just get a sick battle skill like double damage on a flyer or like a revenge onto a great unit, and all of a sudden you have a really strong board position. I do like the Tranquil Scholar a lot. There's not a lot of very good 2-drops now in the format, so this is one of the best ones, I think. I mean, it's a gamble, but I think it's one of the better ones. Definitely better than Oni and Rebel Rouser, which I'm perfectly fine not playing. Memory Keeper is fine, but not great. Yeah, definitely this one. Ooh, Minotaur Duelist is quite good. Ooh, but I think the Valkyrie Denouncer is likely my choice here. 3/3 Flying Revenge is very good. Is it better than the Duelist? I think it is. I think it is. I'll get this. Yeah, I think it's better than the Duelist. Ooh, Copper Hawk Cudgel is exactly the kind of thing my deck needs. You put this onto a flying unit, and if it dies, you get a Minotaur back. So a lot of value. Even so that way when you build Tron, when you know, that's just a slang for building one really powerful unit. Of course, one of the biggest risks is that if your opponent kills it, you lose all of your cards. But this gives you a 2/2 left behind, leaves behind a 2/2. So it's one of the best weapons. Ooh, I like both the Roosting Owl and the Fixing here, but I think I'll take the Roosting Owl. I think for if I'm playing a 2-color deck, the Fixing is not as important, and it's looking like I'm pretty primarily Justice. So I think my Fixing my influences will be okay. Roosting Owl is a very powerful top end to play. Oh geez, Roland's Choice is so good, but so is the Minotaur Oathkeeper. This card's super strong. I'm gonna take the Roland's Choice. I've always valued this card very highly, but recently, what I've found the problem with the Minotaur Oathkeeper is if you played a bunch of 1/1s, and you're relying on attacking with a single unit to win the game, and you're also playing a deck that has a lot of little flyers, if they can kill your flyer, your ground units are no longer big enough to attack anyway, so the ability becomes useless. And the Oathkeeper is at its best when you have a single flyer that is getting built pretty large, and it's hard to block, and he hasn't killed it, and you attack with it, and you do a +1/+1. But if all of those conditions are met, you're probably still going to win the game without the +1/+1. So yeah, so it's kind of a counterintuitive interaction there. I'm going to take the Roland's Choice because the effect is very powerful. A +3/+3 on a unblockable unit will win you the game. And then, like I said, for the repulsive dinosaur, giving all of your enemy units -1/-1 when you have a whole bunch of unit on the board often results in a win as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. There is nothing that I'm going to play. We'll grab the Threaten, but we're not going to play that. Ooh, perfect. Do I want the Revenge Silverwing or do I want this Bully? The Bully is definitely better if you want to build Tron. But the Silverwing has some sweet synergies. Like if you... Roland's Choice, one of the Revenge units, they keep their size when they come back, which is pretty nice. Of course, I have some kind of a little bit of a Valkyrie sub-theme. But I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bully here. The Bully is just much more bigger than the Valkyrie. I think it's... and once you put a turn 2 Bully, turn 3 Cudgel, is very hard to race. Not going to play any of these cards. We'll take a Banner because I like picking up banners. A Horn Grinder could potentially... Oh, wow. Horn Grinder. Silverwing Smith? Yeah. Seems like a cool combo. Yep. Wow. Alright, well that's a sign that well, not a sign. That's just good luck that I'm in green. Being green, open a green bomb. Nothing else in this pack comes remotely close. I like the Soul Collector a lot. This card, in a game where you're going to be doing a lot of trading, a lot of back and forth, a lot of board styles, this card can get to an uncontrollable size. But no, nothing beats this 5-power 4/4 flying Warcry 2 here. Let's just go ahead and grab that without too much thought. I think I'll take I do like the Silverwing Avenger a lot, but I'm definitely going to take a hard removal like Execute. When I say hard, I mean, you don't care about the size of the unit. Of course, it's still conditional, but the condition is relatively easy to meet. So very happy to pick up an Execute here. Another Desert Marshal. Um, so the cards I like the most in here is Bright Mace Paladin, Blackguard Sidearm, and Devour. Devour just for some card advantage. We don't have any Entomb effects, so it's not great in our deck. Bright Mace Paladin requires work, but it's quite good. But I think the Blackguard Sidearm is just the card we'll take. This card onto a flying unit, onto an unblockable unit, or onto the bully, onto a lifesteal unit, it's just really strong. So we're gonna go ahead and grab that. Yep, we'll just. You know, normally I would say this card's not playable, but we got some sweet synergy going on here. Like, double the armor gang. This gives us 6 armor. This thing gets +6/+6. I mean, I'm not gonna miss a 2 power 3/2. Well, will I? I don't have any 2-drops. But this seems like so much sweet value. The problem though is my 3-drop is getting very heavy, and I have very light 2-drops, so against anyone who's very aggressive, I might run into some trouble. But this synergy is very cool. Let's just go for it. I think we'll focus on drafting some 2-drops later, but I think the synergy is really neat. I'm gonna go for it. Uh-oh, no green or black cards. We're getting cut on this direction, which is very unfortunate. That also means on the last pack, we're not gonna be able to. We're not gonna. On the last pack, we can't expect too many great cards in our colors. I'm not gonna splash anything. I don't think my deck is able to splash. I have no color fixing of any kind. So I don't think it matters what we pick here. But in a really weird world that we do choose to splash, I think we'll splash a levitate. No, I'm not gonna splash. I think Cloud of Ash is really powerful. By the way, guys, if you play red, you should high pick this card. It shouldn't be this late. Somebody's ought to be in red. This is actually worthy of a splash card. I think Deadly Stranger's fine, except my 5-drop is super heavy and I have 0 Strangers. I'm gonna take this Rebuke, by the way. I probably not gonna play it, but I don't think I'll play any of the other cards. Dire Fang versus Dark Wisp. I'm going to take the Dire Fang Spider. If my game plan is to fly through the air and attack with unblockable units, I do need something on the ground that's gonna help me take care of giant sentinels and giant dinosaurs. Oh yeah, definitely take the Stranger. Not even for the color fixing, just for a 2-mana unit. Dagger versus Sidearm. Do I have any interesting synergies with the Dagger here? Nope, I don't. Let's just take another Sidearm. It's a great card. It's very unlikely that I'll play the Blood Beetle, but it's. Well, I'm just gonna take the. I'll take the Stone Scar Banner because I have actually a Stranger here, so this opens the door for a potential red splash if it need be, but chances are we're not going to. I'm not sure about this card because most of the Valkyries are really small. I mean, we got lucky and we drafted a giant Valkyrie, but most Valkyries are pretty small. So this card is still going to cost us like 6 or 7 to cast a lot of the time. And is that good enough? It's just flying. The Entomb ability is okay, but not amazing. I don't know about this one. I'm actually looking more at the Extinguish because I love removal spells, and a 4-power removal spell is pretty good. Or the Duelist, just as a turn 2 play for no other reason than it's a good blocker. Yeah, I'm not gonna pick this Silverwing Rallier. It's just too expensive. Like, you can say that, yeah, you know, if you cast a Silverwing Commander, and then you can cast this on the following turn, but that means 1, I drew my bomb, and 2, my opponent didn't kill it on his turn, and 3, I have to not attack with it to play this. I think I would rather just attack with it and get the Warcry trigger and hit my opponent for 4 and play something else. So, yeah, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this card. Affliction is fine, especially because I have a lack of early game interaction, so this is actually a pretty good early game card that I can play to help me not die. So I think it's going to be between the Extinguish and the Affliction. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the Affliction because it's cheaper to cast, and my curve is looking pretty high. Humble Instructor. How good is Humble Instructor in my deck? I don't think I have any unit that has 2 abilities, except for this one, and this one, and this one. Oh, I have all my high ends. A bunch of my high-end cards have 2 abilities. But I think those high-end cards are good enough that I don't need to pump it every turn. I think I would rather pick up a 2-drop that is pretty good, or maybe just another Spirit Blade Stalker, because it's just a really good card. Or the Extinguish that I got, that I passed up last turn. I want to take this Spirit Blade Stalker. In order for this card to be really, really good, you'd need to have a bunch of units on the board, and in that case, it is pretty good. But no, I think this card is always good. So let's just pick this card. Let's just pick the Stalker here. I don't think I have enough Gunslinger for this Marshal to be any good. In fact, do I have any Gunslingers? I don't think I have a single Gunslinger, right? So this is gonna be a 1 power 2/1. Well, here's a Gunslinger, and this is a good Gunslinger. There's no other card that I can... We know that green and black are getting cut in this particular pack, so I can't hope for too much here. I'm just going to pick up this 4 power 2/4. It's not a bad blocker. Ooh. Now I have a choice of another Watchwing or the Humble Instructor that I passed the first time. The Humble Instructor has the potential to win games, but so can a bunch of flying units. And I'm kind of lacking in flying units by this point. I only have 2 flying units in the 3-drop slot, and then like a few in the 5 and 6-drop slot, which is kind of slow. Nah, I'm going to take a Humble Instructor. This kind of effect is good because it gives you a way to use your excess power late in the game. It gives you a little bit of a late game inevitability, or I guess a late game push. Whereas if you just have a bunch of vanilla units like this, sure, it's great if I draw it on turn 3 and 4 and 5 and I pressure my opponent and kill him. But if he removes my flyers and now I'm sitting on a board full of units, this is the kind of card that lets me break the board stall, whereas this card will not. So you do want a little bit of both effect in your deck. Triggerman is also really good now that I'm looking at it. This card is very hard to block. If you put a weapon onto it, it's got really high attack and it's got quick draw, so it's actually really difficult to block this unit. And this is another unit that can actually break a board stall. And I do have a Gunslinger that I want to trigger with, that I want to ally with this. Both of these cards have this a similar way of breaking through board stall. This card makes some of my better units even better, and this card is only good if it has a weapon. So both of these cards are conditional, which means that drawing both of these cards on their own is not that great. This card requires I draw one of my good cards. This card requires that I draw one of my weapons. Huh, that's an interesting pick. I guess for the sake of my curve, I'll pick the Humble Instructor, I guess. Just for curve considerations. I don't know about that one. Do I also pick the Wisp Light because of curve considerations? Because I have a lot of 3-drops, and this is one of the most mediocre 3-drops I have here. Yeah, I want to pick this Wisp Light. I'm probably not going to play it, but I'm going to pick it. This card's pretty strong. Yeah, I think this weapon is by far better than this weapon, right? Wait. This weapon gains armor, and that combos with this. But I guess, do you gain more armor from this, or do you gain more armor from... Oh no, this doesn't give armor at all. Right, so this thing has... This is a 6-drop. And this gives me a lot of attack, and putting this onto a flying unit, or putting this onto a Streetwise Informant wins you the game. whereas the armor is only relevant if I have a weapon or the horn grinder in play. I'm gonna take the Hitman's Axe actually. It's because this card is far more aggressive, and I would rather be more aggressive and win the game than um, have some super gimmicky interaction that is amazing if I have all the right pieces in play. Do I want a second? This is not a card that is great in multiples because you really don't want to draw this in the first few turns because it does nothing. And it's also a 5-drop. This is also a 5-drop. But the lifesteal is pretty good if you put like for example, if I put the first axe onto here, I can gain a lot of life. But my 5-drops are kind of. I already have quite a few 5-drops and 6-drops. Nah, let's get another axe. Oh, I think I want this Copperhawk Porter more than the Gunslinger Ally because it's a 2-drop and it helps fetch power. That's exactly what I need in my deck. I really like that card. Ooh. No, we're not gonna hit the waste turn. We'll take the trick here. Tricks are always fine. This trick and this does the same thing. It both gives me armor, so let's just grab the trick. Wow. Here I thought green and black were not open, but I, I still have some good choices here. I think I would take the 2/3 flyer over these two cards because I could always use a few more flying units. That was an interesting draft, by the way. There was a lot of packs where we had a lot of different options, and the deck could have gone in different directions. I do think we were pretty lucky that green was open, and I think green is open, and that we don't have to splash anything. And we certainly went off in a weird tangent when we started drafting the plus armor gimmick, and that was just I couldn't help it. I like gimmicks. So if we were trying to draft a really competitive deck, we may have stayed away from that and just drafted more straight up better cards on its own. But I think the deck turned out quite well. I think this deck will do quite well as well. We have all the components that we need for the deck to do well, and we have some very powerful cards in our deck. So I think everything is fine. I'm not sure about the Wisp Light. It's too power hungry. And I'm not sure about some of the gunslingers because there's very few cards that they work with in my deck. So I have 31 cards here. Our curve is straight in the 3 slot here, and we have 19 units, which is pretty healthy. I think our 1-drops are all fine. They're good interaction. 2-drops are fine. The Recano Stranger can definitely go. The Threaten can go for sure. The Recano Stranger can potentially go. But that leaves me with only 5 plays on the first 2 turns, and that's not a lot. So this stranger is definitely on the chopping block here. The Emerald Acolyte is not great, but in our deck it's got some synergies, which I like. This Final Shot Rioter, by the way, I don't think. Yeah, I have to cut this. I actually don't have another gunslinger, so I'm not gonna play a 4-power 2/4 vanilla 2/4. I want to play 18 power for this deck because we have a lot of 6-drops. So we have to cut 2 more cards. Maybe one of the Headsman's Axe. I think this is a kind of a late game card, so we probably don't want too many copies of this Stratton in our hand. And finally, I think one of the weaker. The Emerald Acolyte might end up being one of our weakest cards. That means the only other way to get armor for us is through the Spear and through the Streetwise Informant. But I think it's fine. An Ironclad Oath. Yeah, I think that's fine. 17 units, 6 attachments, and 4 spells. I think this deck's quite good. I like it. Yep, I think this deck is quite good. It has some interesting gimmicky interactions within the cards itself. It's got some ways to close out the game. Putting a giant weapon onto a Streetwise Informant will end the game very quickly. Silverwing Commander by itself will end the game very quickly. Building Tron, like one of the early game units like Bully, putting a Blackguard sidearm on an Auric Bully with a Blackguard sidearm, by the way, is basically unbeatable. in combat for many, many turns to come. And if you have any kind of combat tricks, your opponent will basically be losing his entire board to this unit, and it demands an answer right away. One thing that I'm very unhappy about is that there were none of those 2-1 green weapons that gave the unit Aegis. That's what I was really banking on putting onto my Tron unit. Without the Aegis, it's always risky that the unit can die to a removal spell like Entrapment. But I think the deck worked out quite well. We have some very powerful cards. We have some evasive threads. We have a decent amount of early game ground blockers that has, like this, that has deadly. We have ways to break open a board stall. We even have a couple of very premium removal spells in Execute and Entrapment. So this deck is quite good. I have some hopes that this deck will do well. Thanks for watching. Let's get to games.